Okay, everybody, let's take a look at this button project. Let's look at it from not only a perspective of overall what to consider, but also the individual pieces and how they should be built and how they should be built to give you the most flexibility. So your button project expresses your love or your passion for anything within reason, anything that is school appropriate. In this case, this is the Fortnite button that I had showed you yesterday. Really and truly, start with the basics. Grab your circle drawing tool, create a circle. Doesn't matter how big it is. Okay, take that circle, go ahead and leave the inside either white or transparent, your choice. Make sure you color the stroke or the outside black so you can see the edge. Set your stroke size to about 0.25 inches. Right, about 0.25 will make it nice and thin. And then when you've got your circle built, go up to your property bar, switch your measuring numbers, switch your format to inches, and use your height and your width to make it 4 by 4. Okay, you want your initial circle to be 4 inches by 4 inches or 4 inches in diameter. Again, make your overall width of your stroke 0.25. And that'll give you a nice thin line because you don't want the outline of the button standing out. You just want to be able to see it so that you can use it as a guideline. This is the outer edge of your button. That's the size the button will be cut out at. This inner circle is 3.5 inches. And everything of distinct value in your button design has to be inside of that 3.5 inch circle, including the text. This border area surrounding the outside, this ring, is going to be partly lost as the button is created, folded over and pressed into the button form. So all that text, default uprising, should be inside of that 3.5 inch circle, not outside. So make your 4 inch circle, go ahead and grab a hold of it. As you manipulate things, like the size of your stroke, you may have to go back and adjust the overall size again. So there we go. And you notice the stroke went up a little bit to 0.251, that's okay. So there's your first button, Control Copy, Control Paste, make a second circle, take that second circle, make that second circle 3.5 inches in diameter. Set the width and the height to 3.5. And then drag that second circle and stick it in the middle of that first circle, and that becomes your boundary. That becomes your box. Don't forget, if you have trouble moving things around slowly, use your arrow keys. There you've got it. An outside circle where the entire object will fill your button area, and then an inner circle where on that inner circle everything will be completely visible when the button is made. Once you've got your circles ready to go, leave those directly on your printable page and go and build everything else off the side of your page. Go on the internet, find yourself some representations that you want to copy. There's a screenshot from, I'm assuming, Fortnite of one building. There's a screenshot of another building. And it's your chance or your opportunity to rebuild those. How? Well, by taking your Bezier tool and by outlining every significant feature that helps it to stand out. It's just a series of rectangles. That's all this is. And then a couple of curves. Okay, all this is a series of rectangles. Here, let me show you. Going to go back up here. Zoomed out. Looks really nice, very impressive. Zoomed in, you can see it's just a series of shapes. It's just a series of shapes. Select, right mouse click, ungroup. It's just a series of shapes that you've colored in. There's a square, Here's a little rectangle. Here's another rectangle. Here's another rectangle. It's not difficult to draw in a drawing program. What's difficult is to mentally break down how many objects and how many elements you need to layer on top of each other. That's the difficult part. That's the part that is hard to think about. Requires you to be very organized, requires you to be very attention to detail. Okay, same thing over here on this one. Looks great zoomed out, but when we zoom in, it's not even that perfect. Okay, this isn't even a circle, this is a polygonal object. And the real brilliance to drawing in a vector-based drawing program is not how steady your hand can be. It's how able you are to break the object down into its individual elements. Circle, circle, oblong rectangle, squarish, cornered rectangle. Same thing on this side. Same thing here at the top. That's the real difficulty using Inkscape, is mentally trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to rebuild this? How many distinct shapes are there? Well, there's this side to the object and that side. There's obviously a circle clock in the middle with an outer edge and a white face. There's obviously this indented section where the clock sits. Every little detail you can put in like that is the difference between a complex object and a not so complex object. Same thing when it comes time to build any person or character. Go grab your example off the internet and then be ready to understand the concept that all of the elements need to be recreated. There's his arm. So there's a small shape representing his arm. His clothing is three-dimensional, right? It sticks out. This piece is close to his body. This piece is more like a protective, not really an armor, but a thicker piece, and that stands out above the other one. Every time you can give objects an individual element, it's going to stand out and it's going to look better in the final product. Don't forget that you're going to want to trace the entire outline to get the shape of his head and body. And then for each of the elements inside, you're going to want to try your best to make them different colored, different shaded. All of that adds to the beauty of what's going on inside the image. You're going to want to build things in a manner that allows you to have control over what colors are being used. His eyebrows, his eyes, his nostrils. I grabbed it by accident because I would have to zoom in much further. Right? His nostrils. And then all this are lines. Right? Lines that are placed to give definition to what you're doing. There's the colored part of his eye. I dragged it again. There's the eyebrow over it. There's the black part of his eye. So the real key to drawing in this type of a program is to break everything down into a number of base elements, layer them together, and then figure out how you want to represent them visually. Me, myself, level 4+ background. Those buildings look great. Level 4+ foreground character. He looks great. I actually don't care much for the white sky in the background. I think I would have put maybe a little more color in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to play around with that for a while and see whether there's any shade of blue that I can create that would help those buildings stand out nearly as much. My biggest problem with this button is that the text is not overly strong. It doesn't impress me. And it's put in the wrong spot because when we print this button out, you're going to lose half the text. And that will end up costing you marks. How do you curve text? Well, simply type text. Text for my button. And manipulate the text first. You're going to want your text to be just as interesting as anything else you have in your design idea. Right. Color your text. Whatever color works for you. Color the stroke, if that helps it to stand out. Take the text and find a font that works best for you. A font that you think, text for my button, maybe that one, that you think goes with your design idea. Or at the very least, stands out and is really, really readable. So I'm going to go back to, only because I can see it so well, I'm going to go back to that one. So create your text, color it, put it in its permanent form, make another circle. Make sure the inside of the circle or the stroke is empty. Sorry, make sure the stroke is black so you can see it. Make sure the inside where your fill is empty. Make your circle 3 inches by 3 inches. Sorry, 3.5 by 3.5. That's the size that you want everything to fit inside of, so that's the size you're going to want your text to fit inside of. Then select both objects, the text and the circle. Drop down menu, go to the text manipulation, put text on path. Okay, the text gets put on the path of the circle. Then you can obviously rotate things. Put the text at the top or put the text at the side. Entirely your choice. Who knows, might look really good off on one side instead of perfectly centered at the top. That's going to be up to you. And then go in and turn off the stroke color. Set my stroke to transparent. Now my text comes up all on its own. And now that text can be dragged over, placed inside my button, and then can be manipulated any way I need to. I can shrink it down, I can re-rotate it. Put it at any angle I want. I can re-skew it. You can do just about anything you want to your text to make it fit the way that you want it to fit. And in the end, all 3 base elements, a complex object, a complex background, and a strong use of text will help add to your button design mark. All right, have some fun.